I'm not going to go to a mechanic to tell him to fight a case for me in the courtroom and vice versa, right? I'm not going to take a car to a lawyer to fix for me, unless you do know how to fix cars, and that's dope. But
They let it talk down when I'm not around, yeah. It's only tied down when I'm out of town, no. I don't trust many when I'm in the city. I've never been a shooter, but I keep them with me. Watch them steal the style and say they inspire. Bitch, I've been a boss who wanna get higher. They let it talk down when I'm not.
What's good, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Talk Down. Today, I'm joined with Juan and Jill, and we're switching it up a little bit. We asked online for a couple of questions, and we have received some, and we are going to be breaking down some of those topics and answering from our perspective.
if you have any questions or comments, please hit us up in the comment section below or email us at talkdown@gmail.com, because we're going to do these more often, especially since Jill has now joined the team. And hey, by the way, can we all give an official welcome to Jill for joining the team? Biggest snaps. But without further ado, I think it's good for us to release these questions that we had. And some of them didn't make the cut because I feel like when we ask these questions, can you guys please take this a little more serious too and not be inappropriate? But here we go. So the first question is, how do you stay true to yourself? And this is Paloma Rodriguez. She asked that question. So I guess we can start with Ryan and then Jill, and then I'll follow up.
So first off, I think we got to ask, what is staying true to yourself, right? Staying true to myself is trying to be as genuine as possible. And it's very hard to do that nowadays, especially with social media. I feel like a lot of people have to put on an act to be entertaining because some people just aren't that naturally. So they aren't true to themselves. So you're always trying to – it's almost like being an actor and having to play that role consistently. That shit's hard for actors to do in a movie. Imagine having to do it for your whole life. So I think not putting on an act and just waking up and trying to be just as happy as you are as a person. If you're not happy there, just keep trying to get better at that. Like we talked about, just evolving and allowing yourself to grow and not trying to be perfect.
Right.
I think that, just like you said, it's what is being true to yourself. I feel like a lot of people rely on outside sources to find out who they are. And I feel like now, especially that, there's a whole pandemic going on, there's racial tension, there's all this other stuff going on. It's really important to find out who you are so that you can hold yourself accountable and you can project your feelings however you feel is appropriate to project them. But you got to find out what those are first. So just like you said, but also I think, keeping not only a mental note of like your feelings and your day-to-day actions and stuff, but like journaling is something that I found to be really helpful in holding myself accountable for the way that I feel and how I react to things and just like what's going on in my head and being able to reflect and stuff.
Okay.
So.
No, it's a good one. Actually, mine is a combination of both. I feel like in order for you to know who you want to be, you have to identify who you are in the moment now, right? And which self are you trying to stay true to, right? The person that you want to be or the person that you currently are? Chances are you don't want to stay true to the person you are because you should always give yourself room for growth. In my opinion, the best way to hold yourself accountable or staying true to yourself is to try to identify exactly who you are now and who you want to be. Just right, as quick as I can make it. Let's move on to the next. So Paloma, I hope we answered your question. Drop a comment down below if you like the response. So the next one is my boy Charles Sellers. His question was, why do men cheat when they have a great lady at home? I shit you not, that was his question. So we're gonna start with Jill. We're gonna start with Jill on this. So Jilly, what do you think?
That's a good question.
It is a good question. So I think you give us the other perspective on a woman's end, and maybe it could be I don't think you can ask a woman why she cheats when she has a great man at home. Not to be sexist or anything like that, but I just feel like, I don't want to put any more foot in my mouth with anything. But what do you think? Trying to be like a psychologist, why do you feel like a men would cheat when they have a great woman at home?
I think that men are, and some women too, this applies to both, I feel like people never stop chasing better.
Oh, yeah.
Whether that be an actual better thing, or their
The concept.
perception of what could be better.
Right.
But I don't feel like a lot of people are satisfied.
Mm.
And in that, I'm not saying, first of all, I'll never condone it. I won't.
Right.
But I understand why certain people feel the need to go out and look for something else if they're not happy. But you don't have to be in a relationship to do that.
Mm.
And I feel like a lot of women overextend themselves thinking that it's going to keep a man, and it doesn't. I feel like it's a lot of men also, the person getting cheated on, they feel like they are at fault when it comes to the other person cheating. And that's not the case. So if you're watching this and you think you're being cheated on, or you are being cheated on and you're not doing anything about it, it's not your fault, but kick them out. That's all I gotta say before I get disrespectful.
Bring it. Talk that shit. Talk your shit.
I'm gonna follow right up. I completely agree. At the end of the day, for sure it's a dedication thing, right? And maturity, because as you grow older, I think you value stuff differently, right? You should always value relationships no matter what. Those are, as a responsible human being, if you are in a relationship, you should honor that and be responsible within that. You can, if you feel like, hey, I'm not, what Jill was saying earlier, where people aren't satisfied anymore, like that's when it's hard to get divorced when you've been married for 10, 15 years. So it's easier to be like, oh, I'm going to just cheat, or I'm going to have this thing on the side and stuff like that. But at what point do you start taking accountability? Like, damn, I'm misleading people, I'm hurting people, and I'm putting up this facade of, oh, everything's fine. And at the same time, you're dragging people along within that. Me and Juan were speaking about it a little bit earlier, and I think it's a personal problem with people who are cheaters. Like, it's deep, and it's you can't really pinpoint it with one thing. I think it's multiple stuff.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think it's hard for us to try to decipher why someone is, because I have two people here who are very different people. And Ryan, I know you my whole life, so even now I'm still getting to know who you are as a person. So for me to sit here and play psychologist and try to understand why Ryan does certain things, even though I know him,
Ryan, you're a cheater?
It's no. Let me preface everything by saying I think that Ryan is having a hard time understanding why a person would cheat, because that's not in his character, right?
Yeah.
But it's also dangerous for us to try to figure out why people cheat, right? I think that for the most part, yeah, people do have this concept of the grass always being greener on the other side, especially if like something's going on in their relationship. And I do think people do rush into relationships, right? You feel like, yeah, you like this person. So after a while, you're like, this is my boo or my girlfriend or boyfriend. When maybe you didn't give yourself that time you needed to be by yourself to, be promiscuous and explore. I think that we, especially, in a Latino family, for instance, there's pressure for me to get into a relationship. There's pressure for me to get married. There's pressure for me to have kids. So we force ourselves into these things. And we're doing a disservice to the relationship, not only to the person, but to ourselves by acting on that rather than just like staying by ourselves and go ahead and enjoying the fruits of everything that's out there. But, there's no clear-cut answer as to why. I do feel like some men or women, they just get into relationships that aren't fulfilling, that aren't satisfying mentally, physically, and all of the above. And I think that sometimes it starts there.
Yeah, maybe take a longer process of getting to know somebody better.
yeah. Be like 1 month and bam, that's my boo.
That's it. I think that also it comes with insecurity too.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in situations that I've witnessed and been a part of, I'm not going to elaborate, but I feel like people who are either intimidated by the person that they're with, and they're like, for example, they're like, oh, I'm a 6 and she's a 10 or whatever. She could get whoever she wants. So I got to prove that I can get whatever I want too, subconsciously, but then they end up doing it. Or they feel like they've gone through a period, like if somebody had a glow up or something and they were, not getting anything at all, and then suddenly they could, and they got into a relationship and didn't have that period, like you said, Juan, of exploring and doing whatever they wanted to do. They get into a relationship, and then they think that that's the time to do it. So, there's so many different reasons why people cheat, but people cheat.
No, those are good ones. And in the comment section below, if you're watching this, and you should be, let us know what other reasons you feel there would be. Because I feel like a lot of people have opinions on this. But great answers, guys. So next question is one that my boy Kyle Hamilton sent us. Nick Cannon's thoughts and fallout. So to give you context, Nick Cannon was a little anti-Semitic in his one of his latest, I think the latest episode of his podcast. He basically echoed a lot of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, including that Black people were true Hebrews, and then said that Jewish people, white Europeans are a little less and have a deficiency. And then he started saying, theories on how, the Rothschilds are controlling the world and other Jewish families, and there are 13 bloodlines. And it's basically he was echoing a lot of irresponsible stereotypes. And he got a lot of backlash for it, and Viacom dropped him from his CBS contract. Fox, however, decided to keep him. He did apologize since, but I guess, now we have, an issue where a lot of people are calling him a shapeshifter for apologizing to begin with, but they don't understand because there were Black Jewish people that were trying to educate him on why what he said was irresponsible. The one thing that I wanted to highlight here before you two gave me your thoughts on this is, and I think Ryan definitely wanted to delve in on this as soon as I mentioned it, is that they recorded this episode a year ago. And they decided that they would release it now in this climate. So, Ryan, let's talk about it.
The biggest thing to me was, man, who is going over your footage? Who's going over your audio stuff where you're having these conversations? Look, it's not illegal to have these conversations, but when you have such a big platform like you do, there's a lot more. You have a lot more to lose, right? So you have to be more responsible. Same way, if you're married, you have a lot more to lose as a married individual. You can't do the same stuff you were doing when you were single. This shit changed. So it's irresponsible for him and the people who he entrusts within these episodes. Recording something a year ago and dropping it now. What he said was wrong no matter what. It's a conspiracy. He's not talking facts at all. It's almost ignorant in a sense for him to talk like that. So it's I don't know. It's irresponsible, man. You lost what you lost because now you want to apologize, and I get it. You're wrong, but when is it too late?
Yeah.
And my question to them is why did they wait a year? Was it because it was kind of controversial?
Yeah, the timing doesn't really make sense to me. But Jill, you got something?
There's so much, but it's what Ryan said. If you have a platform, you have a responsibility. Your platform comes with, a subheading of this is your responsibility now.
Right.
And I feel like Nick Cannon recorded this episode a year ago.
A year ago.
And you're right. Why did they choose to release it now? Because given the context of everything that's happening, that can be taken, Nick Cannon being a Black man, I can see how the white Jewish community would look at him and be like, okay, so you went from saying white people shouldn't have power like they do now to discrediting the existence of white people, period.
Yeah, and making them inferior, right?
Yeah, and it's okay, I understand the argument of there were no white people in the Bible because it all took place in the Middle East, and all this. Okay, that's fine. But if he's gonna elaborate on a conspiracy theory, he has to kind of give a disclaimer, this is a conspiracy. Exactly. He cannot. If you have a platform that big, you can't come on the platform and speak conspiracy theories as fact, and then not expect backlash. And then when you do get backlash, I mean, man, come on. How did you not know this was coming?
Yeah, and immediately he didn't even apologize right away. What he did was he went off on this long a rant about how he was just trying to educate the masses, and it goes to what you were talking about, Jill. That you're on a platform, you have followers, you have people that are listening. Your listeners are your followers. So unless you add that disclaimer, they're gonna think that what you say is truth. Right?
I mean, people get their facts from memes and stuff. Anything that anybody puts on the internet, you can look at it and be like, oh yeah, I read whatever, and then that's how things get spread and whatnot. If Nick Cannon has such a big platform and he has people that are listening to him, who knows who's listening to him blindly, and then they regurgitate that information, and then they say whatever he said wrong, even though whatever he said in the beginning was never, it's a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
But people repeat things, and then it gets repeated wrong, and then it gets translated wrong, and then this and that, and next thing you know, Nick Cannon is a black supremacist, if that even exists.
Right,
and so it's
but you're fueling the divide by doing shit like that, right?
Exactly. So bottom line, if you have a platform, you got to be responsible with it.
Vet yourself. You're not going to vet the information, but vet yourself too in the process. And I think that Ryan echoed it, where I think if you have a team around you, man, then you need to make sure you bring it to this team. If you're going to say something that you feel is like, not to censor yourself, but just to educate yourself. Like here, our Talk Down platform is nowhere near where his is, but we hope it is one day, right? So I don't want any of these older episodes to have anything where none of us are being put under the fire for what we said, because we need to make sure we are educated and we educate ourselves in what we say. Not that Nick's not educated. I feel like he's a very eloquent man and he knows what he's doing clearly. I just think for this one, it was a lapse in judgment, not only by him, but his team, because just because we're talking about Black Lives Mattering, right? It does not mean that Black lives matter over anyone else. And that's not
Black lives are better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's dangerous. So that's where I stand on it. I do like Nick Cannon as a person, and I do think that this is a great opportunity for learning for everyone. So I'm not going to pile it on. I feel like he was well-intentioned and just trying to educate people, but I just think the execution was piss poor, and his team also deserves some slack for allowing him to release that. So the next one is, this is a little bit broad. My cousin Jose Manuel Jaquez, he actually wrote to this, and he's a big supporter of the show. So I definitely wanted us to answer this. It's what should we do with this pandemic? So just basically, what does that mean to you, and what do you feel like we should be doing?
Child, lock it down. I just don't understand why you can go to any age, any other country in the world, and they're back to normal. They have they're in the double digits for cases now. Yeah. And we're over here like, oh, Florida has 12,000 cases in one day.
15,000.
Exactly. And it's like, okay, whether it be inflated numbers or not, it's still happening. Yeah. So America has this obsession with freedom.
Yo, for real.
And
they're selective with what freedoms we're referring to.
Exactly. It's such a blatant disrespect for life and humanity. Mm-hmm. I don't understand it. Like, how are you going to tell me that we're infringing upon your rights and we're taking away your freedoms and all this stuff, when we're saying the only way that you can really have freedom is if you do this for a little period of time, so that way everybody can be free. Like, wear a mask, wash your hands. Don't go around drinking and smoking and doing whatever with everybody that you're sharing stuff with. Like, it's not that hard to just be considerate of other people's lives and your own. Like, you can say, oh, I'm young and I'm whatever and I'm healthy and stuff. Like, no. Because if you get it and you don't have any symptoms and then you give it to someone else that doesn't have symptoms, who knows who's living with their grandparents or their immunocompromised people. Like, just don't be selfish.
Yeah. Really quick, I'm gonna just say this, and I've told one before. The problem with America was we didn't understand the importance of space before all of this. Like, we abused space. Everything was overpacked. Everything, it was like, how much can we get out of this? How packed can we get? And that was almost like a praise. Like, oh, I have this is filled up, or I have this filled up. And yeah, I guess that equals more money. And it's hard for people to sit for a couple of months and be like, hey, I got to chill back for a little bit to heal the whole world, right? They did it, like you said, in these other countries. And for us, not us, but those people who are being irresponsible and don't want to wear masks. So, like, yeah, I feel uncomfortable wearing a mask, but I'm going to wear it because I know it's going to help not only myself and me being to eventually be able to go out there and have somewhat of a normal life again, but being conscious of the older people who don't have the same health as I have and are more prone to these sicknesses and stuff like that. So it's irresponsible for those people to do that.
To me, I'm not going to go and listen to a lawyer to tell me how anything that applies to my health, should be treated. And a lot of these politicians are lawyers, right? And a lot of these politicians are telling you not to listen to science and not to listen to doctors. In my opinion, I'm not going to go to a mechanic to tell him to fight a case for me in the courtroom and vice versa, right? I'm not going to take a car to a lawyer to fix for me unless you do know how to fix cars, and that's dope. But but I just think that consider your source. You have a lot of these politicians that are telling you that masks are irresponsible. You got a guy like Chuck Woolery, who's a moron. You got Chuck Woolery out here telling people that COVID is fake, and then the next day his son gets COVID. So karma right up his ass. You know what I mean? I get a little passionate about this because I feel like there's a lot of irresponsible messages being sent. So just consider the source. You're gonna go to a doctor to diagnose something for your health. So listen to the doctors, listen to the Dr. Fauci's, listen to those people that are trying to tell us what to do and how to be responsible.
It's just in the beginning of all this. So like my mom is a doctor.
Right.
And in the beginning of all this, I transitioned from working in her office to working outside of the office. But we would get patients calling because the president of this country would go on and make an announcement, oh, this malaria vaccine or whatever is going to cure COVID because Dr. Trump, said something. Then everybody's calling the office, oh, how do I get hydroxychloroquine? And how do I get this? And how do I get that? Whatever. And my mom's like, I'm not going to prescribe you that. Because what you didn't hear on the news is that it can cause you this and it can cause you this and it can cause you this. So yeah, whatever. If you get rid of COVID, cool. But you're also gonna have everything else that I'm gonna have to fix for you later on. So no. And it's like you can go on Facebook and those kids from high school that you somehow still have on Facebook and whatever. Oh, COVID's fake. I'm not wearing a mask. You guys are ridiculous. Like Publix, the grocery store down here that everybody loves, is going to enforce masks.
Yeah.
On July 21st or something like that. And I looked at the comments under that post that I saw on Facebook, and you would think that people were saying, like, in order to come into Publix, you have to be completely butt naked with a flag hanging out of your butt. Like, you would swear that these people are being told that, stamp a swastika on your forehead or something. Mm-hmm. Because they're saying, hey, can you, be a little considerate of people and wear some cloth over your face for like less than 15 minutes? Like, really?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And one last thing on that. A business has the right to refuse you as a customer. So if they have a policy that says no shoes, no shirt, no service, they can always say no mask as well. It's Absolutely. All on the company. So you can't use your rights as an American citizen because they have their rights too. It can't be one-sided. I'm sorry. But Jose, just consider the source, man. The next one, I think we're gonna let Jill answer most of it. No, I'm kidding. So the question from Lydia Sharon is, why do Christians support Trump? And she said that I know the answer. I just want to hear y'all talk about it. So we're gonna let you take this away, Jill.
Okay.
The answer I gave before you go, the answer I gave was is that a lot of conservatives are WASPs, right? They're white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, and they're also Christian. So they believe in whoever their pastor, that they have these groups that they support the GOP. So Trump, he waived the Bible, and basically the evangelicals are like supporting him. So a lot of people are flocks, right? Like when you go to a church, you're a flock, right? A member of the flock. So you go with whatever like your church is telling you to do, whatever God is telling you to do. So I think that because he endeared himself to that group, it doesn't matter how religious he is, because I can tell you right now, Trump doesn't give two shits about religion. I can tell you that right now. And this isn't news to people. We know this is just because your pastor is telling you that you have to that he is God's candidate. Everybody's going to support him, and conservatives, they're a very tight-knit group. They're going to vote for a conservative regardless. So I don't think it has to do much with religion as much as it has to do with their affiliation to the GOP.
Yeah, like we said earlier, real quick before you go, Joe, he's using it as a weapon. He's abusing the power that they have to help his case. Like that's all. I think that's all Trump does with anything that he believes, to be honest. I don't think he can give two craps about anything. That man just wants to be on top, and he will do anything he can to get whatever vote he can get, because he needs every single one.
Like putting Goya beans on his desk.
Yeah.
So, with the Goya beans being said, my answer, because I grew up in a Catholic household,
right,
and my parents are Republican.
Yeah.
However, my parents do not support Trump at all.
I mean,
And I'll tell you why. Because he's the worst. But no. So honestly, I think that there are a lot of reasons why Christians can say wholeheartedly that they support Trump. I think one of them has to do with the fact that Trump has vehemently denied and tried to turn over abortion.
right.
And they use that. That's always one of their first arguments. Well, he respects life and all this other. He doesn't give a shit.
Right.
He doesn't care.
No.
He doesn't care. If he can grab a woman by her, the baby maker, then he doesn't care what's coming out of it. Another reason is exactly what you guys said. He used Christianity as a weapon to draw people in. I mean, if you wave candy in front of a baby, they're going to go to you whether they like you as a person or not.
100%.
So when he did that whole stunt about going in front of a church, holding a Bible upside down and backwards for a picture, meanwhile he was tear gassing everybody. Exactly.
The city's burning around him.
Exactly. The pastor of that church was like, we had no idea that he was going to do this. I'm so disappointed and I feel disrespected at this point. And it's like, he will do anything because he understands that a lot of people, and I hate to say this, and I hope that this doesn't bite me in the ass, but the majority of the people that we don't see every day that support him are the same people that can go into a church and claim that they love Jesus and that they're 1000% Christian and whatever. And then the same people that hate anybody else that's not white. They're claiming that they all life matters from conception until birth and all this other stuff and whatever. But when a black man's hanging from a tree, life doesn't really matter at all, 100%. Right? The president of Goya is like, oh, I love Trump and he's whatever. So Trump and his daughter illegally, propagandize.
There's ethics laws against it.
Goya. And it's like, when has it ever been okay in the history? Because at this point, it's not even a political thing. It's not even, I'm Republican, so I align my views with Trump. It's not even, I believe that, he's helped the economy and whatever, blah, blah, all this, whatever. People can say whatever they want. But at the end of the day, how can you be okay with a person like Trump being in charge of your country and making our country look like a laughingstock to the rest of the world?
Oh, yeah, because it definitely...
I have friends in other countries that are like, every time I see a headline from America, we all sit down and talk about it, and we laugh, and we laugh, and we laugh. Because it's like, there's so many things that are happening in the world that are important. Yemen is...
Yeah, I mean, Palestine...
in shambles.
Aren't they trying to wipe Palestine off the map?
Yeah, West Guinea... Actually, I don't think... West Guinea is having, the worst genocide ever. And we just find out about this because a little girl from West Guinea had 10 minutes to talk about it. And did you guys even know that it was happening?
No.
Exactly. You see what I mean? There's so many things that are so important in this world that, people are dying at rapid rates everywhere. People are losing their life because they don't have anything to eat. People are being hanged because the color of their skin in our own country. But yet your president has time to put Goya beans on his desk where he's supposed to be making decisions for this country and take a picture.
And I mean, reminder, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I think that matters more than some beans. The next one should bring us down a little bit, I think, and make us a little more empathetic.
I'm angry about this one too.
Yeah, no, that's true. The children in ICE detention centers, and that's from Miguel Esparza. That's a great topic to talk about, Miguel. I don't think we can condense it to just what this episode, though we want to, but I really like that you brought that up. I'll go first on this. I think that the first thing that's said about this is that Obama created these detention centers, and that might be true. His administration did. But you never heard of these centers being used in the capacity that they're being used now. And I'm going to throw a conspiracy theory out. This is a fact, too. Children are missing. They're going missing in these centers, and no one's talking about it. We're not talking about them much. And I feel like there are people trying to fight these battles, but still, we still these kids sleeping on the floor with these blankets, with these heat blankets, and we're not doing anything about it. I know that their parents came in here illegally, but this is supposed to be a country built on give us your tired, you're hungry, right? Your huddled masses. And this is how we're treating these people who are terrorized in their own countries. So these kids are, I just feel for them because not only am I a Latino, so I think about the kids around my life. but it's just like think about this country and what it's supposed to be, and it was supposed to be an opportunity for them to live a better life, and we've lost sight of that. We've made them the enemy, and they're not the enemy. The enemies are inside our borders. You know, they are more the enemy. They are more against American ideals than those kids were. And I just wish there was more being done about that. And I hope that if we do vote in a new administration, something's done. But I just think that we need to talk about this more.
Yeah, I got a quick question. My thing is, America is full of immigrants. When did people start saying, "Hey, you're illegal. You can't come into this state"? Like, that to me is shocking in itself. Like you said, people are trying to become better,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe they have to go to a whole nother country to become better. And yeah, you want to be responsible and watch people abusing, coming over here and stuff like that. But like, who's to say no? You can't come over here. Everybody who is here right now, our ancestors, all weren't they all illegal as well?
Yeah.
So how can they police that still to this day? It's shocking to me that and then they have these centers where they're holding these kids and stuff.
Yeah.
So this topic, it almost like makes me really emotional because I, as a very empathetic and sympathetic person, just can never understand how someone can look another human being in the eye and say, you're less than me.
Right.
Whether it be from the color of their skin to where they come from, where they were born. Because if you really think about it, a lot of people in this country are so proud to be American. They're so proud of the fact that their ancestors came to America and built a life for themselves, and now they live in this America the Beautiful and all this whatever. And if you were unlucky enough to be born anywhere other than this country, then you are automatically considered illegal unless you go through a process that was built by this country and it's not easy.
Yeah.
I understand the act of coming to this country without the proper documentation and everything like that. The act of that is illegal.
Right.
But to call a person an illegal person doesn't make sense to me, because how is someone's existence illegal?
Exactly.
With that being said, the people in this country are so quick to say, you know, if you don't like this country, get out. So then it's like, so you're admitting that if you don't like the living conditions in your country, you should be able to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right?
We're escaping the very behavior you're supposed to be helping us
Exactly.
with.
So it's like, how can you say in one sentence, you know, you're illegal, you need to come here. You can come here, but come here legally and blah, 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 and, you know, whatever. But if you don't like it, leave.
Yeah.
And it's like, so what if any other country had the same horrible, you know, process that, I mean, and there are countries that do.
Yeah.
But it's like, you cannot, you know, claim America as this, you know, land of opportunity and all this other stuff if you're denying people of that opportunity.
Yeah.
And do I believe in open borders? Absolutely not. And
Right.
I'll tell you why. Because when you create absolutely no restriction, people are human at the end of the day. They take advantage of things, and that's how you turn a country into a shithole.
Right.
But while I agree that it is a privilege to be born in this country because we're a lot better off than a lot of other countries, at the end of the day, the way that lately I've been seeing that we're dealing with racial situations, with pandemics, with all this other stuff, I feel like America is a third world country with a Gucci belt strapped on. I mean, really, like, we claim that we have this and that, and we're glamorous and we're spectacular and we don't sweat, we sparkle. But we have millions of people that are worried about the fact that they can walk out of their house and get this illness because the president, I hate saying our president because I hate him, but the president of this country knew about a pandemic way before he ever acted on it.
Yeah.
For his own personal gain. So long story short, yes, these detention centers were built under the Obama administration,
Mm-hmm.
but the Obama administration did not weaponize the detention centers
At all.
If you were deemed of legal status in this country and you were not causing problems in this country, you were kept an eye on, but you weren't immediately dismissed from this country or put into a detention center for your existence. Under Trump's administration, if you are found to not be born in this country and you're now in this country without the proper documentation, you are an illegal person and you're put in a detention center,
Mm-hmm.
and then your children might go missing.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
I
So
could go on for hours, but I'll
no, there's
probably
definitely
cry.
a lot, and that's why I appreciate Miguel at least bringing this up, because this is something that we'd love to talk down, the use of these detention centers and how we've been, these people have been made the enemies. I think that, well, before we move on, there's something that the United States has, and that's if you have a country that's being terrorized, they have a lot of these Central American countries, a lot of these people in the detention centers are Central Americans. These people fear for their lives, so they were seeking asylum, and that was legal. It was legal for you to flee your country if you were afraid feared for your life because of you were being terrorized. And I think that it's also a lot to be said about this administration, the fact that they took that, or they're trying to take that away from these people, and that's their right to seek asylum. So we have much more to talk about that, but if you have more to add in the comment section below, please educate us, let us know. One last one that we have here, and it was from Rebecca Blake Thompson, who was a guest recently on our show. She said, uncomfortable conversations are critical for growth. What's the best way to start one? We just had this topic about polarity with Danielle, and I think that the best way to start one is I think that if you come with an unflappable like demeanor, right, that no matter what that person says, you're going to stay in your element, you're going to stay comfortable and know that I'm bringing facts to this conversation. I think that as long as you acknowledge that they have a right to speak as well, as long as you stay even keeled, I think the best way to start dialogue is just to reach out and say, I just want to understand where you're coming from. Because a lot of times you learn, and Danielle nailed it when she said, know your enemy. If this person is on the other side of what you believe, it says a lot about you when you can just restrain yourself and just try to figure out why this person is the way they are. So the way to approach it is just offer an olive branch. Say, let's find middle ground here. Let's go out to eat. Let's have a phone conversation. Let's have a FaceTime or a Zoom call. I'd love to know where your head is at on this and what you think about this. And even if you walk away agreeing to disagree, at least you've armed yourself with more knowledge as a result.
I think it's important also to remain malleable, because people oftentimes, like, since George Floyd died, I mean, you guys know my episode and everything that I spoke about Black Lives Matter, clearly, and colorism and racism, clearly, I've had to have a lot of uncomfortable conversations recently. And one thing that I've learned, because I was not equipped with the tools to have these uncomfortable conversations. I was not knowingly equipped with the tools. These were just things that my parents instilled in me from a very young age. And I thank them for that, because without it, I mean, things could have gone completely left with all of the conversations that I've had. And very few of the conversations that I've had have resulted in inflammatory dialogue. And never on my end. It's always, when you trump somebody, I hate using that term, but when you trump somebody and you give them all the facts and they have nothing back to say to you, they insult you, which is okay to me, because it's like, thank you for letting me know that I won. But it's important to start the conversation off by letting the person know that it's a safe space to talk.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
And it's important to let the other person know that, hey, we all have our opinions and you can say whatever you want, but at the end of the day, we can agree to disagree, or we can just go our separate ways.
Exactly.
I'm not going into this conversation. And that's another thing. I don't ever go into a conversation about anything that's tense thinking that I'm going to change someone's mind. Because that's not the goal. If you're trying to have a conversation with somebody about something, it's to understand their perspective and gain more perspective so that you have a broader understanding of whatever it is that you're talking about. Unless I know something to be true, like this pen is black, and somebody says to me, well, to me it looks a little gray, but I know it's black, I'm going to try to change their mind. But if I know for a fact that they're never going to change their mind and they won't budge, then it's whatever. It is what it is. I know that this is black and you may think it's gray, but at the end of the day, it's black.
They could be colorblind to the facts too.
Exactly. So it's like, but exactly that though. Their situation can cloud or blind them to whatever it is that you're seeing. Exactly. And until you address the root cause, you'll never be able to change their mind. So when going into difficult conversations about things, don't go into it thinking that you're ever going to change someone's mind. But at least plant the seeds in their head so that they can grow and hopefully they'll gain more perspective and have more conversations within their own lives, that the seed that you planted will grow into their ideologies. You know?
Facts.
That's my take on it.
I agree. I'm not going to add too much to it. Just be open-minded. Don't have an agenda. People go into these conversations trying to prove points, and that's not what it is. A movie that really helped me understand just having different views of things was I saw it a long time ago. It's called Vantage Point, and it blew my mind how so you can see the same thing happening from different moments, like from different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
So having that open perspective really gives you that chance to be like, damn, I still might not agree with, but now, like Jill said, planting that seed that make them think a little bit different and a little bit more every single time, and be like, hey, I'm not trying to change your mind, but just understand this is what it is, and whether you agree with it or not, this is it.
Yeah, no, that was a great movie too. Forrest Whitaker was in it, right?
Oh my, I love that.
Yeah. So, thank you to everyone, Paloma, Charles, Kyle, Jose Manuel, Lydia, Miguel, Rebecca. Thank you so much for your topics. This was great, and we're going to do this more, especially since Jill joined us. Now we have a team. We're rock solid. Before we let you go, we definitely would like to let you know what we have planned coming up. Rebecca asked us a bonus question, and we'd love to share it with everyone. As she said, well, when is the panel happening? And there's so much to talk about these days. So our idea was that eventually we're going to sprinkle in some panel episodes with either some of our past guests, and Ryan, myself, and Jill, we're going to moderate the conversations. And I think it's fun because that's a great place for you to see how some conversations can be had where not everyone's going to agree. And you're going to also see how someone will just maybe give a little bit or is willing to have an open mind and gain some perspective. But it's a civil discourse, right? I think that we would love to have that. There's so much for us to talk about. Ryan and I touched on a lot of topics that was just him and myself. So for us, we were like, how can we do this to where we can include other people and not just one guest, right? More people that are going to disagree. So we have that coming up. We also are going to, if you're local in the New Jersey, New York area, we're going to try to have some mixers and networking parties with, and it's just going to be probably happy hour where we get together with some of our past guests and maybe future guests, to young professionals, a chance for you to just network. We have a lot of people in the career spectrum range that we feel like if they get in the same room, there's a lot of collaboration to be had. Jill, you're getting to see some of the people that we're interacting with for future episodes as well. And Jill, hopefully she can come up and join us in one of those. No, we have that. We're still tweaking our show. We're trying to make it better. That's why we ask you to give us some feedback and input. Comment section below, talkdown@gmail.com, or you can reach out to any one of us. Our IG should be on any one of these corners here in our boxes. Yeah, and please drop a like and subscribe. Make sure you click on that bell, right, Ryan? That little bell to let us, so that when we have a new episode, you already know that we have one out. But the episode over, but the conversation continues.
Yeah, and as always, look, follow us on @Talkdown on Instagram as well. If you want to have one of your questions answered on one of these episodes, make sure you are doing that so we can get to those questions and talk about the topics that you feel like we're not addressing or you want to hear our opinion on. So, as always, tell a friend to tell her friend to tell all of her friends to follow us. We'll catch you not only in the next episode of this, but our regular show, and we're excited for that. Take care, guys.
They let it talk down when I'm not around, yeah. It's only tied down when I'm out of town, no. I don't trust many when I'm in the city. I've never been a shooter, but I keep them with me. Watch them